So I hadn't realized, so it's live streaming or what, who all has access to this? Um,
There we go. Everybody hear me? Everybody hear me? Everybody hear me now?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Got such a big group tonight. No, I really appreciate you guys coming out. After a crazy ACL weekend, I think maybe people were scared to come down here because the traffic was so bad this whole weekend. But it's October and is here online or in person. So plant sale.
Again, he was asked about foreign press in the election. His answer was about
this Saturday, and we're excited about it. We've got
There's a
12,
lot of noise here.
Vendors, and we've got some flyers here. And if you have a place that you want to put one and tape it up like to a window outside of your business or something that you know might be a good spot for it, there's about 20, so please take some. If you see a social and if you see the post about the vendors, please click on their links and check them out. I so appreciate their coming out and sharing the space with us as we sell our plants. This is our yearly fundraiser. I love this table here. This is so beautiful, all these colors. So the plants on the right, or the things on the right are all giveaway. So at the end of the night, you can take anything you want, except for the little tray where it says summertime crops, you can't take those. But everything else, it's free for the taking. And have you guys been to the plant sale before? It once, yeah? What are you looking forward to?
The area where it is and all the different like things that were there. This was a good time. I just enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're gonna have a musician play as well. Laura Freeman, she does fun garden songs. That should be entertaining. And the vendors kind of have a theme of things that are garden related, but not exactly. I just wanted to have kind of a fun experience.
And it's out here, right?
No, it's right here where you're standing. Yeah, it's indoors. So sometimes we have larger vendors who come. But this year we didn't get any other vendors that go outside. We just got some crafts people. And we're gonna have veggies, every kind you can think of. Natives. What else? I didn't know what you did.
Yeah, typical fall veggies and some good fall herbs. And I don't remember specifics on the natives, but we did
the natives, yeah.
Perennials and natives.
There's some definitely 1 gallons of things. Yeah. We got some larger 1 gallons of things.
Yeah.
What else to say about the plant sale?
The marketplace, the vendors, did you mention here?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Actually, we could go over who's going to be here if you want. Do you have a list of who's going to be here? We're gonna have lettuce.
There will be lettuce.
There will be
There
lettuce.
will be lettuce.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah, some dill, cilantro, lettuce, broccoli, Romanesco, cauliflower, kale, a couple of kinds of kale.
Romanesco makes this sort of spirally kind of cauliflower thing. Romanesque.
Oh, yeah, it looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, I love Romanesque.
And Swiss chard, yeah, like that, a lot of good plants. And,
Somebody in the chat here.
well,
Oh, yeah,
I'll take
that
care
was
of
you.
that.
Yeah.
You focus on the meeting.
Yeah, so any questions about anything? If you want to volunteer, it's still open to come on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning to clean up or to set up. It's just a fun thing to do, honestly, to put the plants out, talk to everybody, arrange the tables, and it's just a really good time to visit and talk about plants, because I don't know about you guys, but I can do that all day. Maybe that's why they, yeah, any questions? That's a good question. Yes, so if you signed up to volunteer, we have volunteers come and then they go down
To the volunteer lodge.
down to the volunteer lot. You'll get if you volunteer, you'll get a direction what to do that, or direction from the people when you get here, how to do that as well. Oh, I'm gonna be in Austin studio tour if anybody wants number 14 to my garden on November 9th as well. And 10th. My house. Austin studio tour. It's 500 artists all over the city. I'm in West. West is the first weekend, East is the second weekend. And I'm in North Austin.
Yeah.
Tour.com.org or whatever it is.
They can also get it at your library. Your library will, if you look at the library, will also have it.
That's right. They said, yeah, they ran out of funding. I don't think they got a major grant they were looking for, so they weren't able to print the booklet. Which is fine. Go paperless. Yay.
How much?
No, the tour's free, but they love donations because they're struggling. Austin studio tour something. But yeah, so please, obviously, since we get we had a technical problem with our Instagram, so we lost our Instagram account, 7,000 followers. We've new Instagram account, about 70 followers. So if we can get any assistance at all, sharing our post or spreading the word of our plant sale, anything at all, we could really appreciate it. It's Saturday, yeah, 10 to 2.
What's new?
Able to reclaim the name, thank God. Yeah. Okay.
How many houses will there be?
On the studio tour, I'm the only garden that I've seen on there. $100. Also, studio tour is all artists, and I'm a garden artist, so I make art from natural materials. Thank you. Got a little bunny workshop or a elf workshop going on in my house. Got my husband doing it too. All right, ready to go?
I think so.
Okay. Any questions online? Thank y'all for coming. Here, I'm gonna hand it over to Demi, and she's gonna tell us more.
So I'm gonna try to make it quick and introduce the speaker for tonight. I heard Judith McGeary speak at the Southern Family Farmers and Food Systems Conference that was in August. Out in a while. Probably the last time I had thought about it was when I was working on an organic farm, like in the, I guess it was the mid-90s, and I read that book, Fast Food Nation. I don't know if anybody has ever read that book. It's an excellent book. All the privilege that big ag has, and how hard it is. Well, how hard it is for small farmers, but also how hard it is for us as consumers, the food that our government subsidizes the production of. And some of the things that you wouldn't even think about is like all the high fructose corn syrup comes from all the corn that the government pays people to raise these crops. And so also happy Indigenous Peoples Day this morning with a different group. But one of the things that the Indigenous people, what it makes me think of is people with a connection to the land. And this organization has had that as well. This organization was started, had access to something other than chemical free of wanting to make sure that our right to healthy food is protected. I heard Judith speak was the fact that not everybody has that privilege. They may not have the time to grow their own food. They may not have the reason. Also, the farmers themselves that are small producers, agriculture that builds up the soil, need help like having a bigger voice if they're having to try to stand up against larger corporate, big ag. And so Judith's organization, FARFA, the Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance, that is what the small producers, the people that we want to buy food from at the farmers markets, to make sure that I would have like a game to play, because otherwise the larger corporations, it just makes it almost impossible. Because we know the value of that as being small farmers ourselves, it would be a good sport. So I hope that wasn't too long. I want to read Judith's bio because it's extremely impressive. And then I'd like to turn the floor over to her. Sustainable farmer. She earned a Bachelor of Science from Stanford University, and she has a law degree with high honors from the University of Texas at Austin. She clerked for a federal appeals court and went on to private law practice. During that time, she became a passionate advocate of sustainable agriculture. She and her husband established their own benefit industrial agriculture at the expense of family farms. She founded the Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance to promote common sense policies for local diversified agricultural systems. Judith has been profiled in the Texas Observer and Edible Austin, appears in the documentary Farmageddon, and has served as a vice chair of the U.S. Secretary's Advisory Committee on Animal Health, and is also active with Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, the Weston A. Price Foundation, and the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. So I'd like to introduce Judith. I have never run this thing, so David, you're going to have to help me make sure okay. Thank
Can
you.
y'all hear me now? Can y'all hear me now? I'm just checking in. Please let me know when you can hear me. Can you hear? Are we feeding into
We need to
the
do.
AV?
Mm.
Yeah, on Zoom, you all can hear me. The question is whether the folks there live can.
No, I don't see it.
Okay.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Are we there?
Do we have to remove the turn from here?
Yeah.
I mean, I can hear you all fine. Am I feeding through the AV yet?
Well, it's her computer. Okay. Yeah.
Let's see. Try again.
Testing. Can y'all hear me now?
Yay.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to speak. I wish I could have been there in person, but grateful for the advantages of Zoom. Ooh, are you guys hearing an echo? Or is it okay on that end? Okay. Okay, I will simply ignore the, one of the things, but I wonder how many people in the room, and this is actually a harder question to ask when I can't see everybody's responses. But I think when I came into sustainable agriculture as a farmer, as an aspiring farmer at the time, 25 years ago, I had this vision of how much money farmers were charging at the farmers markets and in the direct to consumer marketing world. And I didn't think anyone was getting rich, but it seemed like you should be making a fair living. I found, both frankly, personally on our own farm, and with farm after farm after farmer that we work with, is that the reality is that almost no matter what prices are being charged at the farmers markets or in the direct-to-consumer venues, the majority, the vast majority of the farmers who are raising regenerative foods and selling into local and regional markets are not making a living at it. They are either living below the poverty line, they are living, a spouse or a partner they themselves are working a second job. That is what actually pays the bills for their household. And that's pretty appalling. There aren't really other careers of doing your career, of doing full-time or more than full-time work. And it's not sustainable. We talk a lot about our water and our natural resources and nutrient density and sustainability, and we don't talk really about sustainability for economics of these farms. And the reality is, if we don't change the system so that farmers are making a fair living, then sustainable farming will never be more than a tiny niche of people who are so passion driven that we are willing it. It cannot become a significant portion, much less the dominant food model. So what will it take? What will it take to get there? And the answer is it's not buying local. And please do buy local. I hope everyone is, but that won't change the system, because for the very reason I just brought it up, if they're not making enough of a profit on their items to make a fair living, then simply buying more doesn't change that. Why are small farmers and regenerative farmers not making a profit with, charging what appear to be perfectly, high prices on their foods? I apologize. I have people blowing up my phone on something, so let me turn it off. And the answer to that lies in government policies. It lies in the fact that in the 1970s, the government, the USDA economists decided that small farmers were a thing of the past, that conventional, chemical, and industrial scale agriculture was the future, and that small farmers were doomed regardless, and that the best thing the government could do would be to help them out of business quicker so that the shift could be made. And that literally is what they wrote. I mean, there's USDA documents that, basically this is what's best for the farmers themselves, what's best for the rural communities, just get them out of business. And openly started promoting get big or get out. And all through the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, this was absolutely clear, explicit, underlying every other policy, underlying our trade agreements, underlying our crop subsidies, underlying within this framework. And, a few years back, a few people started going, this doesn't seem like such a great idea. And what you now have is, on top of decades of these policies, which also now are very firmly ingrained throughout state legislative. It is the framework in which we all function. And so that has to be changed. Now, if I could wave a wand and change it overnight, I have a list of things I would do. And they would be big and they would be dramatic. In the spirit of Teddy Roosevelt, I would completely overhaul the entire food safety system to look at scale sensitive regulations, the scale appropriate regulations. There would be immense things happening. And that's not how we make change in our laws and our government. this journey 18 years ago when I founded FARFA, said that if you're going to be honest with people, and he wasn't talking about ag, he was talking about any of the issues we face, frankly. If you're going to be honest with people, what you say is it took us decades to get into these problems. Agriculture, I think it'll take multiple to reverse. Just talking with another actor, like I've been trying to get talent or whatever and working on it for, 2 years. Is there any point? I just don't think, should I just give up? And the answer is like, look, at 2 years, you're just beginning. Now, you might get lucky, and I've gotten lucky, or it's not just luck. There are things that help, but some of it is luck, and gotten stuff through the first try and had huge successes in a year or 2 years or 3 years of organizing. But if we're talking about changing the system as a whole, and for some pieces, it takes a lot longer. So with that, incredibly encouraged tonight is talk briefly about some of the specific reforms we're working on, which fall within the strategic steps. Like, how do we move? Here we are, embedded policies and all of the consequences of those, with the lack of infrastructure to support our farmers, the lack of research on appropriate seeds and breeds, the lack of accessibility of compost and other organic inputs. How do we get here to where we want to be? What are these steps? And the bills and policies I'm going to talk about are from here to here. We've got to start taking those steps. And then I'm going to talk, and I'd like to focus actually most of the time on what you can do and how you are engaged. Because when I say it takes decades of strategic, focused, careful work, that means people being involved. It is not simply me doing the work, because that doesn't get us anywhere. It is using people like me who understand the policies, who understand how to work within the Capitol, who understand legal, and us taking that information, people, many, many, many more people, the farmers and the consumers, to be speaking up and be effective advocates for the sort of food and ag system that we want to see. So, as some of you may know, the Texas legislature meets only once every other year. It only meets for 140 days from January through the end of May, which means that life is very interesting in the first 5 months of odd-numbered years. And 2025 is a legislative session, and it's very hectic. So we are looking at several bills. One is to expand the of its kind in Texas, passed in 2000, home kitchens without permits or inspections by the health. 2011, we've come in several times and gotten expansions until now, up to $50,000 a year of what's called non-potentially hazardous foods, basically foods that are shelf stable, that don't need refrigeration. That's a somewhat simplistic view, but if you want more information, actually, can I share my screen? Sorry, I'm trying to spot the share screen and see if I can do that. If you want more details on this bill, Cottage Food Law, or anything that we're going to talk about, this is the FARFA website's priorities. And here we have cottage food laws, and we have a very detailed food law is. And while I'm actually here, let me point out, you can sign up to join us as a member. You can, this is how you can, learn what's happening and stay. The cottage food law, pretty decent. Farmer who's part of a co-op can't even sell their own value-added goods as a cottage or sale. If somebody wants to do a pumpkin pie instead of a pecan pie, they can't do it. And $50,000 as a cap made a lot of sense in 2011 when we first passed the bill. By now, that revenues, not profit, and what it would cost to some things that you would need if you're outside the cottage food law. So we had a bill last session to expand it and address all of it. It was heading for a House vote, and we ran out of time. There was 140-day clock ran out of minutes on us. And so we're going to be bringing it back this session. Another bill that we're also failed in the Senate would allow the sale of ungraded eggs to restaurants and retailers. So grade A large or whatever it says, don't actually know what grading is. Candling the eggs, putting a bright light through it so you can see how big the air pocket is, you can see size, you sort them by quality. And I suspect many of y'all understand, and somehow legislators and regulators, egg, you can't tell if there's salmonella in it. Weighing the egg doesn't tell you if there's salmonella in it. It tells you how it's a marketing issue. It's a grading, a quality issue. In Austin, you will see people selling ungraded eggs direct to consumer, completely the exact same dozen eggs and sell it to one of the local sourcing restaurants. Those restaurants aren't, we still can't buy those exact same eggs that are being sold, down the street. And for both the restaurants and the retailers who want to do more local sourcing and for the farmers opportunities, graded eggs with clear labeling saying they're ungraded at restaurants and retailers. The last one that's actually going to be a bill in the Senate. These things often take this kind of route where you have to bring them back over and over and over. And basically on its statutory and it's on its books, very good law that provides that if a piece of land is principally used for agriculture, that the taxes are much lower on it. And that's pretty much what the state law says. It's that simple. That state law is implemented at the county level, and the counties don't recognize fruits and vegetables, don't recognize market farms as agriculture. And they've actually stood up and testified that what they call agriculture. So they will give the tax break to someone growing hay to feed horses, but they will not give it if that same acre or 10-acre, very significant market farm. So we have a bill that would address that and try to, require the counties to treat these farms appropriately. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing. And the last initiative we're going to be working on is not a bill, it's appropriations, which means funding. We got that set up a healthy soils program. It's actually called the On the Ground Conservation Program at a state agency called the Texas State the Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board. But there's no funding for it. Now they have managed actually to kick off the program with federal funding and are doing some really nice work. And we're going to be saying it's time for the state to step up and recognize that when farmers use methods like rotational grazing and cover crops and other methods that preserve and actually rebuild our organic matter in our soil, they're not just benefiting their farm, they're benefiting the entire community and our entire society. And that the state needs to be supporting. So that's what we're going to be working at the state level. And actually, before I go to the federal level, let me actually just stop my screen share, restart it, and come back to another tab on my thing and introduce you very briefly. Let's talk for a moment about how to be active, what you can do. Because whether these bills pass or not, we'll try to get them passed, work on it. And again, please sign up for our email alerts. We'll keep you informed on when and how to take action. We'll make it easy. But I wanted to show you some of what we're looking at or what we can direct you to, and also how you can monitor, let's say, what you're interested in, whether or not it's something that FARFA is doing. If you're interested in a completely different issue. This is the Texas Legislative website. It's actually one of the best in the country. I have to tell you, it's a very good website. And you can come here and you can see all of the members and the committees. If you scroll down, if you type in your city or your zip code, sorry, I'm trying to do this. My computer, why aren't you letting me do this? I might not be able to do this. You should, okay, it is not letting me do this for some reason. Maybe let's try it. There we go. So if I type in my town, Cameron, it comes and it tells me that my congressman is Pete Sessions. So this is who represents me in Congress at the federal level. My state representative, Judiths, I can come and I can find his phone number. This is a very valuable thing right here, 512-463-0682. Because one of the most valuable things you can do is call your legislators. Do not sign online petitions, or I even sign them on a very rare occasion still. I sign them when I don't really care very much about an issue, where I'm like, oh, I want to care. I should care. I don't have time to care. I'll sign the online petition. And that's about how much this is office. I walked into another legislative office with where there was a chief of staff who I'm on good terms with. And as I walked in, she was taking a, bag to go, she was sort of clearly packing up to head home for the evening. And I looked at it and I looked at her and she grinned and I said, form letters? She said, yeah. Now they're scratched from my 4-year-old, scratch paper for my 4-year-old. That's how much they care about form letters and online petitions. And it's not just, I use that story because I find it sort of amusing the most, but I've heard consistently every single legislator of either party, state or federal, don't send us a form letter. Because if that's all you care about it, why should we care about it? If you don't care enough for caring about an issue, why on earth would they listen to what you have to say about it? Now, if you call and I live in Cameron, I'm a constituent of Representative Curtis's, this cottage food law is really important to me. I have gluten intolerant and get decent quality baked goods, and they're cottage food producers I know who are, and this law would let them. And then someone put a timer on me that was 20, 30 an impact, because you've just told them that there's at the end of the session going to be like, so how did Gertis vote on that? I want to know, thank you. Or wow, it died. And apparently he was, sorry, Gertis, he never voted on the cottage food bill. So, this isn't him. But that's what makes a difference. And as little as that sort of little spiel can be, that is worth dozens to the next step. And you pick up that phone and you go, hi, my name is Judith McGary. I am in Cameron. I'm a constituent. I'd really love to talk to the staff person who handles that. Don't talk their ear off for 2 hours. That's not what they want. They're busy. They've got lots of issues. But you take 10 minutes and you go, I'm a farmer and I raise grass-fed beef and lamb. And this is something that we're passionate about, but we can't make a living at it because here's what's happening. Here's the problem. And you sit there and you explain it to them for a few minutes and you really engage them so that they remember your name and who you are. That's worth hundreds of form letters. That's gold, or that's silver. You go in and you meet with them in person, that's gold. And they all have district offices and club. You're near Austin. It's simple. You call them and you're like, hey, can I come up to the Capitol rep? That's wonderful. But honestly, the staff has so much influence. You can just be like, do you have something, when could I come up? I could be up at the Capitol next Wednesday. Is there a good time for me to come by and talk with you? Go up to the Capitol. Parking for 2 hours is free, 15, 20 minutes. Get back. You haven't paid for parking, go on your day. Absolute. I mean, that's priceless in terms of political activism. This is how you can be very, very, very effective about and really, truly moving the needle on them. The dates are still a little, it will be February 11th, and then it'll be the first Tuesday of each month in March, April, and May. And again, you're local, you're Austin folks. Come up to the Capitol for the day. And it's not on your own. And you will talk not only to your own legislator, you'll go talk to lots of legislators, because we want it local foods who care about sustainable farming. And I actually really do have people regularly tell me it is fun. It's not just me being a little crazy. People say like they really feel they enjoy, they get to meet other people who care about this, and they get to feel that they really are making a difference, and they get to see how this is incredibly empowering. And it's something that we need for the long term. So that's the state level. I want to touch briefly on federal level, particularly since it looks like, so 2023 was supposed to be a farm bill year. The farm bill is a massive piece of legislation that's passed once every 5 years. They didn't make it. They gave themselves a year extension. 2024 was supposed to be when they passed the new, chance that it could pass after the elections in what's known as the lame duck section. There's some chance. The higher odds are 2025 is going to be the thing about the farm bill. And again, if I could wave a wand, a huge piece of what keeps this get bigger, get out structure in place. There's so many pieces that are designed that way. We're starting to chip away at that. The good thing about it is it's kind of like a Christmas tree on ag, which is if it has to do with ag, it's germane, it's relevant in there. So instead of having to do a standalone bill, which Congress does very few standalone bills nowadays, you get introduced a bill that sets out the policy where everyone knows it's not going to pass on its own. That bill by itself is not like it's there specifically for the intention of Sigma Farm Bill. and on both dealing with increasing access to local meat by improving options for processed Prime Act, which would allow custom exempt slaughterhouses to be right now, if you go to who owned the live. We did get a bill through last session in Texas that provides more flexibility working on getting that information out to the farmers. But even the best we can do at that is it still has to be bought while the animal's alive. Allowing expand the options for farmers is we need, being able to use custom exempt slaughterhouses, which are licensed and regulated. We just don't have an inspector on site. Being allowed to use them and then sell the meat at the local farmers, many doors for a lot of farmers all over the state. The other bill that just got introduced, don't remember what that acronym, I don't remember what any of the acronyms stand for. People come up with these long names so that they can come up with the root. But what the Local Foods Act does is it provides that that people who want to, let me try this again. For the personal exemption that exists under current law, I can process for my own personal and household use. And that's the statutory words. It's that USDA has been allowing that it's not buys a share. So, we get 2 people to buy shares of my cow and then process it on our farm. But first of all, USDA is signaling it's not actually, and 2, not that many people want to do their own processing. Not that many people know how the heck to do the processing. And USDA does not say, it says that it is not okay for me to hire a butcher to do it, process my animal for me under the current law. The Local Foods Act would change that. It would make it clear that it's anybody who owns a share of the animal and they can choose to hire somebody to do the processing for them. So lovely little bill. It just, the Senate version just got introduced. So those are 2 big pieces we're working on at the federal level. We're also working to protect funding for conservation programs so that more farmers can qualify for financial assistance. Because a lot of these practices like rotational grazing, cover crops, no-till, require more upfront funding that costs. And again, they provide benefits not only for the farmer, but for everybody around them. And the number of acres that are in regenerative agriculture. The more support we provide for it. So we want to ensure that there's funding for those conservation programs. The issue practice 18.5 years ago was to, and after 4 years of very intense work back then, we stopped it and USDA withdrew that plan, but they have brought it back, only this time they're bringing it back piecemeal. So I will share with you, the plan that was proposed 18 years ago was to require that every chicken would be assigned an internationally unique ID number. Everything except the chickens would get an electronic tag. The chickens would have to have a physical tag on each one of them. And they're moving at the same time, the corporate consolidated industries, the folks that where Tyson or JBS own the animal from birth to death, they wouldn't have to do any tagging whatsoever. They could simply, keep a paperwork record saying that that group of 10,000 pigs in that confinement building are group ABC 123. It obviously is extremely prejudicial to small farms and pasture-based operations. It is very much in the meat packers' interests. There's a lot of international trade implications that benefit them. And it was pretty, when you lay it out like that, most people went, that's a really stupid program. Like, that sounds really bad. And that helped us defeat it back in 2010. USDA learned from that defeat. And what they're now doing is they're like, oh, it's just the adult cattle crossing state lines. That's it. And so, unfortunately, most people are like, oh, I don't cross state lines. My small farmers don't cross state lines. I'm a goat keeper. I'm a poultry person. I don't need to worry about it. But we know they literally laid the plan out before. Here is what they want. And they have literally also said this is simply one step towards a more comprehensive program that they have planned. So we are fighting that because you need to stop it now before it starts putting first the mid-sized farmers, let's say, who do cross state lines, get put at such a disadvantage. And then once they're at a disadvantage and the program is partly implemented, then the next step comes and more farmers get put out of business. It needs to be stopped now. So we are fighting that also at the federal level. And what I just said about getting involved at the state level, to a large extent, holds true at the federal. Now, it's not so easy to go to go to DC. Those, it's not an issue of picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, I want to stop by your office on Wednesday." But the basic principle that personal contact, that personal story, is far more powerful than form letters, absolutely still holds. And those phone calls aren't any more difficult to DC than they are to Austin. It's just as easy to pick up the phone and call DC and have that 30-second conversation, or to your US representative and Senators Cruz and Cornyn or whoever is next up in the next session. And again, those make a difference. And I can tell you, when we contact offices, actually, that reminds me, I need to follow up on something. Sorry, let me make a note. When we contact offices, I actually got an email recently from a member saying, "Hey, I just talked to somebody in Congressman Sessions' office because, I called and left a message saying I was against animal ID. I think it was animal ID. I need to double check. But, and got a call back, and she'd identified herself as a FARFA member and got a call back from the staff saying, we're getting calls on this. I really need to understand it better. Can you have someone contact me from FARFA who can explain, really get into the nitty-gritty and explain it?" And that really is what we see, or at the state level, when I walk into an office and they've gotten calls from constituents, and I'll walk up to the front desk and I'll be like, "Hi, my name's Judith McGary. I'm with the Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance. I wanted to talk with whichever staffer is handling, the Cottage Food Bill, who's handling local foods." And if they've gotten half a dozen calls, not that many, half a dozen, 10 calls maybe, about that, I'll usually have that staffer, they'll hear me and they'll poke their head out of their office and be like, "Did she say cottage food? Send constituents about this. And I need to understand what's happening." They haven't gotten those calls. I walk into an office and no one's called. They're like, "Oh yeah, I guess that's Susie. She's busy right now, and I'll get in and I'll talk to Susie at some point. But she won't be nearly as interested in what I have to say as that person that's gotten, again, even 4, 5, 6 calls from their district." And that is true state and federal. So even though you can't have a phone call. And again, we teach, we go through, when we do our lobby days, we go through a little bit more on like how to effectively communicate. And I guess maybe the one piece I want to pull for that and the talk on and leave a few minutes for questions is, it doesn't matter what your political philosophy is and what your legislator's political philosophy is. There are a lot of people who are staunch libertarians who have a, progressive as their state rep or their US rep, and right-wing, legislator as one or all of their reps. That's reality. You often will not align politically with the person that happens to get elected from your district. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Not on our stuff. It might matter on abortion rights. It might matter on gun rights. It might matter even on tax policy. Although I'd encourage you to try. But those are harder. If you're a progressive talking to a conservative, or a libertarian talking to a progressive, on abortion, that's a hard conversation to have. Our stuff, it's easy, because our stuff is into small business and limited government. Oh yeah, I can give you the talking points on that. Are they into human health and the environment? Ooh, there's more talking points there too. Every single, the beauty of our movement, the great thing about our movement is it's good for everybody. It's good for human health. It's good for the environment. It's good for our local economies. It's usually lines up pretty well with people who want to relocalize and reduce government and build community. This is a win across the board. The only people who lose out are the corporations and some people who make really big profits. So whether, don't sit there and go, "He's not going to listen to me," or "She's not going to listen to me because, they're contrary it is." Doesn't matter. If you don't make it political, you can talk policy successfully and very impactfully with any of these legislators, any of these elected officials. So with that, we have, I think, just a few minutes for questions, and I'd like to open it up for that. Anybody there?
Okay, hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so they're gonna be in the chat?
Well, I can handle the chat.
Oh, you're
can
gonna
the
do them,
audience.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, monitor the
Turn
chat.
Okay.
there we go.
Okay, so in this general audience out here, is there anybody that wants to ask a question, and then I'll repeat it? Yes, well, Judith, are you going to be having the ledge days, and when are they? That needs to be said again, I
Yeah,
guess.
so we're absolutely going to be having our local foods education days. The dates are slightly tentative, but right now we're looking at that's when that got changed. So it's going to be February 12th, that Wednesday, and then it'll be the first Tuesday in March, April, and May. And we'll resend those. We'll have all of the information on.
Mary is commenting that she thinks that they actually had a question around that. Can children go with their parents?
Yes.
Like, if they wanted to live, like, and
So-
what age can go? Have specific,
Yeah.
very good memories of doing that.
I mean, I've like this dual thing. One is kids rock, and I am so past like kids those bright
Yeah.
friendly faces. They do need to be patient because they need to be old enough to be willing to, like, because sometimes you're stuck sitting and waiting for people to come, and then people are talking. So I mean, we don't have a specific age cutoff,
No,
but
okay.
it needs to be old enough and of a temperament that they're willing to be patient and put up with the inevitable sitting
Okay.
around parts.
Right. And the dates and times for the education prior to going to the Capitol, those meetings will also be on
Yes,
your
and-
website? Okay.
But we are going to make it a slightly shorter day to make it a bit easier for
Okay.
folks. So, but we'll provide all of those details.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody?
So in Texas, someone asked.
So we are a national organization. A lot of our work is in Texas, so we don't have on the ground lobbyists at others. But one of the things we do is we do fill an unusual niche. There aren't very many groups that are farmer led, focused on policy, and so we do have members all over the country because of our federal. We want to work on state level issues. We really serve an advice and consultation role. I mean, we can help people think of strategy, and that is also something we do for our folks in Texas. So if somebody wants to work on a city ordinance, we don't have the capacity to go into strategies, how to message, how to position your issues, how to think about approaching elected officials. They're the same regardless. And so we provide that sort of consulting role for our members,
Okay.
regardless of what level or where they are.
Okay. Other ways? Question about if there are other ways for people.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get involved. And it depends, how you want to do it. So, I mean, sorry, it's been a very long day. So if we're talking about specifically working on bills, for instance, from home, on contacting your legislators, on spreading the word. I mean, I focus here on you building a relationship with your legislators, but also spreading the word in your community. Can you help, be at community gatherings or at the local feed stores? So that role of spreading the word and building more power in the community is important. If you're talking beyond also, so these bills are what I focused on tonight, but there's long-term work. There is just building community, creating relationships with local officials. There's our conference. We have learn about everything from how to grow food regeneratively to all of these social and political and economic aspects, and meet other people and create. Now, also say at hosting events, we do want to start moving more into hosting small events throughout the year to gather people together. And again, start building community, creating networks, and building more strength that way.
So I think that may round out one more.
Climate change, how is sustainability and farming, and climate change, is there any kind of connection around it?
Climate change and integrating the connection between farming and climate change. Wondering specifically how FARFA might be.
I would say
involved in
I'll
that.
start with the most direct and I'll move indirect. The most for conservation programs.
Yes.
And I mean, let me be really blunt. I mean, we don't go in there and say, we're working on climate change. I don't want to get into whether it makes any sense that's politically divisive. That is our reality. That is the political reality we live in. So we walk in and we're like, guess what? Went in it. And that improves the water infiltration, and it improves drought resilience and reduces flooding. And it also improves production and long-term sustainability of that farm. Oh, and it's a question. There's a list of reasons healthy soils works, makes a difference. So that's where we approach it from. And we got the healthy soil working on the funding for the conservation programs at the federal level. And I'd also come back and that's what led me 25 years ago to become passionate about sustainable ag was the entree through environmental work. Seriously, was Acres USA, which I suspect many of you are familiar with. It's a journal, and it was termed, and he used that term because it needs to be ecologically sustainable and economically sustainable. 50 years ago, that's where Charles Walters kicked off Acres. And as if it is not viable for farmers to farm, this sequesters carbon and changes the environmental system. If it's not possible for them to make a living doing it, if they can't animals meat, it's not going to last. It's going to be CAFOs. So I would argue that all of our work to make our farmers economically sustainable is about ultimately a healthy environment.
One more question, one more question. Come on, Mary, just come up here.
Yeah. Yeah, so, last year when I was in that dead soil, due to chemicals being applied year after year, and there was just, they couldn't, there's no microbial life, basically. And so, it just seems like a hard place to be. Like, if we got a lot of chemical things going on here in Texas, it's very pro-chemical, then how are we gonna get there? That's pretty harsh, but,
Looking to, but
Right.
I mean, it's the steps. I mean, you have heavily used in chemical ag.
right,
There are a lot of things that need, and there is a lot of land. I mean, it may be chemically
Right.
contaminated, but it's not so dead that literally you can't grow. I mean, and so
Right.
almost degraded. I mean, it is all badly
it
degraded.
really is.
And that's the work of
Yeah.
holistic management, and it's the work of all of, all the regenerative producers, all the folks at Acres, all the folks at Archon to be growing better. And it's a process. It's not going to happen in
Right.
1 year. No,
Wise to help,
it's not.
bring us along somehow. Right, that's where my head thinks, so.
The healthy soils programs and provide funding
Right.
for farmers to be able to do these things.
That's good. Yeah.
It's not like we can come in with a bill that says, the chemicals are gone and everybody who sprayed chemicals has to pay damages. There's no point spending the political energy on it that
Right.
could be spent on a stepwise approach that gets us ultimately 10 years, 20, as opposed to coming in and not making any headway at all.
Thing, it's really fun to go down to the Capitol, like I was saying, it's really a good time to talk to people and look them in the eye and see where they're at and talk about the issues with them personally. It's really fun. I recommend it to a lot of people because you really have no idea how that works until you go down there, and just like you. So, and come in, and we appreciate all your
Awesome.
hard work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right, so take all this away, guys. Feel free to take everything you want. And the food too.
That's what the thing